Stay frosty and head over to easymutt.com for the cheapest mutt coins on the market. And when I say cheapest, I mean it. We're talking 1 million coins for around 40 bucks. Use code DIRECTOR for 5% off. Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans, I got another huge video for you guys today. Yes, another one of my bold, full off-season strategy videos. I did one of these about a month ago. You guys loved it. We're going to be covering everything from the Chargers cap situation to free agent signings, re-signings, cuttings, and even the draft in this one video. But first, I kind of want to make a point with you guys. You guys see what's going on in the NFL right now? Things are about to get wild. The 2021 offseason is going to get nuts. And it's, of course, because of what I'm calling the cap crisis. This is the largest amount we've ever seen the cap drop in a single season, and it's going to leave a lot of teams in a bad financial situation. But for other people, for maybe GMs like Tom Telesco, Coupon Tom, this may present a pretty good opportunity to sign a good number of free agents on the cheap, because the reality of the situation is there's going to be a lot of players out there wanting to play football this season, and because of the lack of financial stability by all NFL teams, they're likely going to have to take a pay cut. And you know what, guys? We're also living in a time where we just saw the blueprint of loading up on free agents, really spending, going all in an offseason work for an NFL team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who did just that last season and came away with a ring. So in today's video, I'm going to give it my best shot in loading up this roster and giving it the best possible chance at making a playoff push, nay, a championship run. Now, before we do get started, guys, as one of your final reminders, I am giving away a jersey. This is a thank you to all you guys who continue to support my channel. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do. All you guys got to do to enter is make sure you're subscribed to this channel and hit up the link in the description. Follow the instructions there. Very easy to enter. And also make sure to check out my Madden Ultimate Team channel. Sub over there. That's worth 3 entries. Good luck to everybody out there. I'm pulling the winner of this sucker on the 17th. I think it's kind of a cool way to roll into the new NFL season. Good luck to everybody. I hope this goes to a good home. And with that, let's get into this one. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this channel and want a chance at winning the Keenan Allen jersey. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this video. Lights, camera, action. A shocking off-season strategy for the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be my second take in the series. Now, before we get rolling into this, let's see what the Chargers have to work with as far as cap. Per Spot Rack, the Chargers at this point have $32.6 million in cap space to try and bolster this roster before the 2021 NFL Draft. Oh, guys, I'm so excited to show you what I have in store for the draft. But before the Chargers make any moves, we need to take care of some business in-house. And unfortunately, this is the season of pain. We need to start with the cap casualties. Now, I guess I would consider a cap casualty also to be guys that you just can't afford to bring back, and we're going to start with our guy Melvin Ingram. After a disappointing 2020 season riddled with injuries and a lot of guaranteed money, I'm not quite sure if the Chargers want to bring him back in the 2021 season. It is unfortunate, as the tandem of Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram has been dominant for the past couple of seasons. I just really think that Melvin Ingram fell off a cliff, and it might be time to move on from the longtime Los Angeles Charger. Next up, we've got Rashawn Jenkins. I actually don't think we talk enough about Rashawn Jenkins. He had a fantastic 2020 season, really underrated. But again, we're talking about the Chargers stretching their dollar for probably a little bit more quality. And as good as Rashawn Jenkins is, I don't think it really fits the plan of what we want to do in addressing the free safety position this season. And then finally, Denzel Perryman. Now, at the time of recording this video, there have been rumors that Denzel Perryman does intend on testing the free agent market. Nothing's confirmed yet. There are reports that he does want to return to the Chargers if at all possible, but if I were a betting man, I'd say more likely than not, he's going to be moving on to greener pastures. And then finally, the first guy we've got to cut in order to save some cap space. This one's been talked about a lot. The Chargers cut Trey Turner, saving $11.5 million towards the cap in 2021. And honestly, this is one that a lot of us see coming. Trey Turner, again, one of those guys riddled with injuries in the 2020 season. We were really hoping that he could become a staple of this offensive line, and honestly, it just did not pan out. As a matter of fact, fact, he was graded as one of the worst, if not the worst offensive lineman on the Chargers this last season, and that's really saying something. Next up, let's move on to trades. Now, this one, there's a lot of guys as far as considerations, man. I've been reading a lot of articles, reading your guys' comments. There are a lot of possibilities this offseason, but I think the one that Chargers fans want to see the most, including myself, is going to be this. The Chargers are trading away Mike Williams and the 13th overall pick to the Baltimore Ravens in exchange for Orlando Brown and the 27th overall pick from Baltimore. There you guys have it. We've got ourselves a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle for the future of the Los Angeles Chargers. And this isn't a new rumor. This is something we've heard for the past several weeks. Of course, you guys know the story. Orlando Brown filled in for Ronnie Stanley after an injury at their left tackle position this year, and he really did shine. After that season, he wanted to move permanently into the left tackle position, which obviously the Baltimore Ravens do not want to do, and that is why there are trade offers on the table. And keep in mind, guys, in this scenario, the Chargers are swapping first-round picks plus Mike Williams in order to acquire Orlando Brown. And if you're wondering if that's enough value, keep in mind that the Baltimore Ravens would need to offer their first, second, and third-round picks in order to match the value of the 13th overall pick. Now, of course, this didn't come easy. The Chargers, as well as its fans, are huge supporters of Mike Williams, and honestly, it would really suck to see him leave the team, but this trade just makes sense. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this one. Again, this is part of my plan in this video, but it's one that's been highly speculated throughout the league. Now, moving on, something I didn't mention in my last video, but I'm going to mention in this one: restructures. Now, restructures in layman's terms, as far as I understand it, is when you take money from this season on a player's contract and spread it out through future seasons, making it guaranteed. This can be good for players because it makes them harder to cut in the future and also gives them a nice guarantee in the years to come. And in this case, the Chargers are going to restructure Joey Bosa's contract and Keenan Allen's contract, freeing up a total $9 million between the two of them. And of course, these are two of the highest paid players on the Chargers. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Chargers are going to have a lot more money to spend in the 2022 and 23 season, so backloading those contracts a little bit and opening up opportunities for the 2021 season makes a lot of sense here. This brings the new total cap space to $65.3 million. Now, the Chargers do still have one more thing to take care of as far as in-house business, and that is re-signings. There are two players, I think I went over the same ones in my last videos, that I think the Chargers really should be prioritizing in bringing back. The first one being Michael Davis, who the Chargers signed to a 3-year, $19.5 million contract with the 2021 cap hit of $5.5 million. Now, Michael Davis, to me, again, a solidified number 2 cornerback on the team. He really did have a great season last year. I do think he still has room to grow. Secondly, the Chargers take care of business with our star tight end Hunter Henry finally coming to an agreement of a 4-year, $44 million contract with a 2021 cap hit of $8 million. Oh boy, guys, this one's been such a headache the past couple of days, has it not? Is Hunter Henry coming back? Is he not? Are we using the tag? I'm hoping in this scenario that Hunter Henry decides to stick around on the long term, because I want to see him back. He's the kind of player I would have on my team any day of the week. This leaves the Chargers' remaining cap at $51.8 million. And I intend on doing some damage via free agency in order to try and make a run. Now, we're going to be going through this list as far as priority, okay, guys? I'm pretty sure you know what the first priority is. Offensive line. The Chargers desperately need an improvement to their offensive line. I think it's fairly relevant to all Chargers fans, and they're going to start so with this man right here. The Chargers signed Corey Linsley to a 3-year, $29 million contract with a 2021 cap hit of $8 million. In my opinion, and you guys have seen me talk about Corey Linsley several times in the past, he provides so much more than just being the best center in football, which, let's not, get anything mixed up here. We would have the best center in football. But also, as the Packers nominee for Walter Payton of the Year last season, he's a hell of a human being, a hell of a leader, and I do think he's one of the best possible O-linemen we could bring in to help develop our rookie players, not just on the offensive line, but in Justin Herbert, too. I see this offense changing dramatically over the next season, and the kind of communication between your center and quarterback is definitely important there. Next up, the Chargers are going to sign Austin Blythe to a 3-year, $11.7 million contract with a 2021 cap hit of $3 million. Now, some of you guys are probably like, what? Who's Austin Blythe? Austin Blythe was the center for the Los Angeles Rams last season. Of course, a connection to our head coach, Brandon Staley. And honestly, he was an average center at best in the league, but where he really did shine is when they moved him to guard. And he graded as one of the better offensive guards in the league. And this just does go to show, when you take money from a position like guard and cutting trade Trey Turner and moving it, spending it on a player like Corey Linsley. It just seems smarter. And then on top of that, we can save some money by signing Austin Blythe on the cheap and getting, I would say, an upgrade to that position as well. This leaves the remaining cap at $40.8 million. Let's move on to priority number 2, the pass rush. Now, of course, I'm worried about defensive back too, okay? But I do think with a quality pass rush, it will elevate the level of play from your defensive back. So we're going to start with that. There's only one player I really have my eye on in this circumstance because the Chargers have a lot of money to burn. The Chargers are going to sign Leonard Floyd to a 4-year, $52 million contract with the 2021 cap hit of $10 million. We did it, boys. In my opinion, the Chargers got the best edge rusher in free agency, Leonard Floyd, who again has connections to Brandon Staley with the LA Rams. Leonard Floyd, who had a breakout season last year, totaling double-digit sacks, would be lethal on the Chargers defense, lining up next to guys like Joey Bosa. Really kind of brings the same sort of formula that Staley saw with the Rams, lining up Floyd next to, let's say, Aaron Donald. It should get pretty ruthless out there, and I think Leonard Floyd would add so much value to this Chargers defense. This leaves the remaining cap at $30.8 million. Let's move on to priority number 3. The Chargers signed John Johnson to a 5-year, $41.5 million contract with the 2021 cap hit of $7 million. You guys have heard me say this a million times. The way that Staley runs his safeties is a little bit different than other defensive coordinators in the league. And what he does is he plays them a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage in order to help defend against the run. With 2 safeties in Derwin James and John Johnson, this could be one of the hardest teams to both pass and run on in the league with the addition of John Johnson. This leaves our remaining cap space at $23.8 million. Let's move on to priority number 4, receivers. Now, so far, I'm feeling pretty good with the moves that we've made. The Chargers are looking stronger than ever, but we did lose Mike Williams in a trade for Orlando Brown this season, so how are we going to help fix that? Now, we do have the cap space here to go after a big name like Juju Smith-Schuster, which honestly is still an option for the Chargers. But this year's draft class is so deep at the position of wide receiver, I think it would be smarter to go after a receiver via the draft and maybe spend a lot less via free agency. You guys will see more of that here in a minute. Meanwhile, though, I do have the Chargers making one move as far as free agent wide receiver. The Chargers signed John Ross to a 2-year, $8.4 million contract with a cap hit in 2021 of $4 million. I'm sure you guys saw this one coming. And really, guys, it does come down to scheme fit and price, okay? It's going to be very difficult to convince me to sign a wide receiver, let's say over $8 million this offseason. And again, it's because of what the Chargers can do on offense. John Ross with the Cincinnati Bengals could not be used to his full potential with Andy Dalton and even Joe Burrow because those quarterbacks just don't have the arm that Justin Herbert does. As the fastest wide receiver to ever run the 40, I think he has the opportunity to help stretch the field and offer a lot of touchdown value to Justin Herbert in deep attacks. This leaves our remaining cap at $19.8 million. Now, there's a couple more priorities here, guys. One of them I'm doing for you. Priority number 5, running back. Okay, dudes, this is a call to the fans, okay? There's a lot of people that seem to think that Austin Eckler can't handle the workload of being the #1 featured running back, and honestly, I can kind of see your point in some instances, but I still do think that Austin Eckler should be our featured back. But where he could use help are those goal-to-go situations, those short yardage situations. The Chargers tried to supplement that last season with Kalen Ballage and Joshua Kelly, and honestly, he just wasn't getting the job done. In an interview that you guys watched with me not too long ago, Tom Telesco did say he's frustrated as far as scoring touchdowns from the halfback position, and there is one guy I think we can turn our attention to in order to solve that. The Chargers signed Todd Gurley to a 2-year, $11 million contract with a 2021 cap hit of $5 million. Okay, guys, I get it, okay? He has the knees of a 75-year-old man, but there is one thing that Todd Gurley does well, and that's score touchdowns. And this is an area that the Chargers have been struggling in for the past couple of seasons. Last season, I think Todd Gurley scored something like 9 touchdowns in a limited role, and then years before, he scored a lot more, 12 or 17 in years previous. I don't know, man. I just see the Chargers having a problem that Todd Gurley could solve. Even if we don't use him as often as a featured back, he can come in and do something that the Chargers need a lot of help in, and that's scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And he comes at a very cheap price. This is one of me listening to you guys and trying to find a compromise at the position at a cheap level. That leaves our remaining cap space at $14.3 million. Now we're moving into priority number 6 before getting to the draft. depth. Now, $14.3 million is a pretty healthy number going into the 2021 year. Focus some of that spending on quality depth, re-signings, in-season spending. This is something that can definitely be solved via the draft as well. The Chargers have 9 draft picks this season. I'd like to focus a lot of those late-round picks in offensive line and positions that are maybe a little bit weaker. So with that, guys, this is one of my favorite parts of this whole video. I gave a lot of thought as to how the Chargers could tackle the draft after trading away the 13th pick in exchange for the 27th. Let's get into this one, the NFL Draft. Let's start off in the first round with the 27th overall pick via the Baltimore Ravens. The Chargers select Elijah Vera Tucker, interior offensive lineman out of USC. Now, this one kind of shocked me. Okay, I've done a lot of mock drafts for the Chargers at number 13, and I really didn't see Elijah Vera Tucker falling very far after that. But you got to remember, I guess the rest of the league really only sees him as a starting guard, be it the best guard in the draft, in my opinion, but a guard, a versatile guard. And I went through a lot of mock drafts just to make sure it was accurate, that there's a possibility of him being a 27th, and in a lot of them, he definitely was available. So in this instance, I would say the Chargers, with a little bit of luck, are able to nab Elijah Vera Tucker with the 27th overall pick. I think it's a win-win scenario here. Now the Chargers offensive line is probably looking more like a top 10 O-line in the league rather than a bottom 3. And again, Elijah Vera Tucker, what he offers is versatility at left guard, maybe even left tackle if we need him to. But with Orlando Brown there, now Corey Linsley, Austin Blythe, and Brian Bulaga, this line is looking pretty deadly to me. In the second round, with the 47th overall pick, the Chargers select Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback out of Florida State. Now, I compromised a little bit with this one. I've seen Asante Samuel falling into the third round in a lot of mock drafts. I have no idea why. To me, Asante Samuel is still a very strong early day 2 pick, and really the kind of guy that can develop into a prominent number 1 cornerback. With a lot of these guys too, I'm going to give you guys their NFL pro player comparisons. In the case of Asante Samuel, it was Brandon Flowers. If you guys remember him, he had a short stint with the Chargers way back in the day. And honestly, with the veteran leadership of Casey Hayward, Chris Harris Jr., Derwin James, and now John Johnson, I think Asante Samuel could really reach those heights, developing behind those guys for the future. And honestly, I could see him being a big impact player immediately in 2021. In the third round, with the 78th overall pick, the Chargers select Nico Collins, wide receiver out of Michigan. You guys remember how I said we're not going to spend a crap ton of money on wide receiver via free agency? It's because of this draft class. Nico Collins, maybe flying under the radar a little bit with some people, is possibly one of the best scheme fit wide receivers for the Chargers and how they like to operate their offense. If you haven't seen any of Nico Collins' highlights, I highly suggest it. He honestly looks a lot like Mike Williams out there, but maybe with a thicker frame. As a matter of fact, when I went back to the Draft Network website, I went down to his player comparison. They actually listed a player near and dear to my heart. They compared him to Vincent Jackson of the San Diego Chargers. God rest his soul. And honestly, I couldn't unsee it. When I went back and watched more of his tape, Nico Collins to me looks a lot like Vincent Jackson as far as his big plays. Now, honestly, he's a third round pick in this draft for a reason. You could say he could probably get drafted in the late second, maybe middle third. But for the Chargers, as far as scheme fit, coming in with Justin Herbert, playing that role that Mike Williams did, this is a great way for the Chargers to not only free up a lot of money from Mike Williams, bring in a Pro Bowl caliber left tackle, but bring in a guy like Nico Collins who does have a ceiling of, let's say, a Mike Williams and Vincent Jackson. So the Chargers can continue running what they have been running, but with a player on a cheaper contract. You guys follow all that? I know, a lot of lines to connect, but to me, it makes a lot of sense. Guys, watch Nico Collins highlights. I love this player. Now, remaining in the third round with the 98th overall pick via our compensatory pick, the Chargers select Carlos Boogie Basham, edge out of Wake Forest. Now, here's a guy that I see a ton of potential in. I see, a lot of people see him in a 4-3 defense. I really think the Chargers, if they were to take him in the third round, would probably have him share reps with Jerry Tillery at defensive end. Boogie Basham, man, a huge human being, very thick frame, very mean, plays with a lot of attitude and energy. I see this guy as a huge fit for the Chargers as well. And again, it kind of does bring insurance in case Jerry Tillery can't handle the position of defensive end. I think Boogie Basham would offer a lot of competition and maybe become an eventual starter in the future. Moving into the fourth round, the Chargers with the 119th overall pick select Aleem McNeil, defensive tackle out of North Dakota State. As we get into the middle rounds, you guys will notice a lot of maybe picks that I'm looking towards the future with and a lot of depth. To me, Aleem McNeil, dude, this guy is a great think-ahead player for eventually when we have to get rid of Linval Joseph, who I think added a ton of value to the Chargers last season. Aleem McNeil is a great defensive tackle, nose tackle versus the run, a run stuffer, and I think eventually could become the Chargers starter in the near future when we do move on from Linval Joseph. So I think this is a great pick. You can rotate him in this season, and I do think he has the potential to be a great quality player for the Chargers for years to come. In the 5th round, with the 161st overall pick, the Chargers select Anthony Schwartz, wide receiver out of Auburn. You guys tired of hearing me talk about Anthony Schwartz yet? This is the fastest wide receiver in this draft class, a track star. If you guys watch his tape once again, he just looks like a blur out there on the field. It's fairly obvious, right? Why we're going after the fastest wide receivers, it's because you're pairing him up with Justin Herbert, okay? Having John Ross in there, Anthony Schwartz, you mix in Nico Collins and Keenan Allen. This is a pretty deadly wide receiver core, both depth-wise and immediate starter-wise. And I do see Anthony Schwartz and John Ross more as like situational players. You know, they need to stretch the field a little bit, keep legs fresh. I like that combo quite a bit, man. I think the Chargers, you know, top 5 wide receivers on the depth chart are all of a sudden looking pretty great. Now, with the last 3 picks, I'm really trying to acknowledge a little bit of depth here, guys. So with the 201st, 208th, and 237th picks, the Chargers select Trey Hill, interior offensive lineman out of Georgia, Jalen Moore, offensive tackle out of Western Michigan, and Patty Fisher, linebacker out of Northwestern. Again, all of these guys are great quality backups. You can develop them into maybe starters at some point, but Trey Hill and Jalen Moore I see as very important adds in the late, rounds of the draft, just to make sure the Chargers aren't in a tough position if there are any injuries on that offensive line. And then a guy like Patty Fisher for that linebacker core is definitely important too. So guys, just how I did this last time, the likeliness of all these moves happening is relatively low. But what I want this video to do instead is to stand as an example of how different this offseason could be due to the cap crisis, the state that the NFL is in, the blueprint that's just been laid forth of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning a Super Bowl after loading up, and an uncharacteristic season for the Chargers trying to make the same kind of strategy work for them. So in the comment section below, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this full, bold offseason strategy. What are moves that you like, moves that you don't like, things that you would do instead, even guys in the draft that you would target instead. All of it's there, man. Let me know. There should be plenty of topics of discussion in the comments. I had a lot of fun with this one. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Hit us up with a like and sub on your way out if you did enjoy this content. Also, make sure to check out the link in the description if you want a chance to win that Keenan Allen jersey. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.